All right. Let's see if that helps. Hey, team, back. Maybe a quick, shorter one today, but anyway, we shall see how we're going. But let me know if that's a little bit more stable for the streaming this morning. Who knows? We shall see. Technology. I don't know if anyone's got kids who like to play some games online. My son, quite keen on that. And we installed some VPNs and some protection mechanisms on our internet just to make sure that, nothing untoward happens. And maybe that's what's causing some issues on the live streaming. Anyway, we shall see. Anyway, good to see you guys back hanging around. Welcome back to Wealth Coffee Chat, take 2 this morning. Hey, question for you, for those listening in right now, those that hung around. If you were, let's say, I'm going to quickly go to this. If you, as we're going along, we're sitting here in the world of buying a property. We're in one of the phases, which is acquisitions. We're in this phase, and you've got a certain choice to make right off the bat, and you're saying, all right, well, what am I going to do? My first deal or my second deal? I've got a certain amount of borrowing power. I've gone and chatted to the finance team, and they can give me some money. Let's call it, $750K or thereabouts, 650, 700, whatever it is, whatever we're talking about, right? And let's have a look at that. You were there. You've got a bit of spare cash flow in your pay packet. My question to you, would you choose a cash flow property or a growth property? Cash flow or a growth property, and which one would make you wealthier? And it's always an interesting question because I've had this question many times. We all have this question many times, thinking about it from side to side. Yeah, there you go. Semi Saggers. You get both on your side for sure, Jeff. Balance it up. So it's an interesting one. We were talking about this the other day about, in areas that get more growth, we tend to make a choice. Growth if you have the ability, Tim. It's interesting. All right, so let's have a bit of a look at a little bit of a calculator, a bit of a spreadsheet on the scenario. And this, again, a rough scenario. There's plenty of different ways, going around. If you have a income on that property, when you think about the calculation, which, capital growth, let's say 9% compared to 1%. The extreme choices in this conversation when it comes to, all right, where do I want to find the balancing point or the wealth point for the quality of my property? So, as we tend to do, or as it tends to happen, if you choose a property, let's say for a higher cash flow yield, let's say you're looking for like 9 or 8 or 9%. Tell me in the chat, if you're looking for 8 or 9%, where do you tend to find that type of rental yield? Like everyday buy and hold regular yield. Luke's already got his cash flow properties in check, which is awesome. So, where do you tend to find those types of properties, the higher cash flow, higher yielding properties? Well, it tends to be regional, right? So if you're looking at, a certain location, infrastructure, CBD, beach, employment hubs, whatever it is, the further you get away from those, often the higher the rental yield becomes, right? So you end up, Blackwater. Don't go to Blackwater, Jeff. You're dead right. So you tend to be regional, okay? And what happens, it's not exact, but, you get a higher cash flow out there. And when you get closer to a certain piece of infrastructure or something that someone wants to be close to, shops, schools, whatever, blah, 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 then the inverse proportion happens. Your rental yield tends to go down. And so where we go. So if we have a look let's look at the extreme. We went for cash flow over a 10-year period. What would it look like? And this total yield here is the total growth. And over a 10-year period, folks, that's the total yield over 10 years. Right? So let's have a look at the 10-year outcome of a property. Let's say we're in a location where growth is very unexpected, but we've got a high rental yield. So we've got a high rental yield of 10% on our property. We've got a little bit of growth with it. And then, the total all up over those few years. And then the interest, because we're paying interest, we're doing interest only. And our net outcome after our interest and our capital growth, $378,000, right? So that's fantastic. We're up, okay, as we go along. Now, if you go to the other extreme and you go, I'm going to get a 9% capital growth on the property and a 1% income, then, what does that look like when it comes to our yield, okay? So, let's have a look at growth plus the rental yield minus our interest, and then we end up with a better outcome, $725K, right? So when we're looking at this type of thing, team, the difference between the net difference, if you can, afford from your own pocket and cash flow over 10 years, okay, over 10 years is pretty significant. All right, so let's just quickly do the math on that one. Should have had my calculator ready. 725 minus, 378 is $347,000. All right. So let me ask you that question. For you, if you have, like Luke said, if you've got the capacity, and maybe you have to put a bit of extra money out of your pocket into the deal, maybe the property. Let me ask you this question. It's probably a better question in the chat. How much extra, so how much on top, how much input over and above what the property pays for itself, how much would you be prepared to put in every year into a property every year to create $347,000 worth of wealth? How much? What would you put in dollar terms? What would you be prepared to put in? Because this is a question, let's say if some of us don't have the capacity to buy 3, 5, 10 properties, but we've got a little bit of extra cash flow, but it's not enough extra cash flow or servicing to get us that next deal. Question. Yeah, Luke's saying, right, why not put 5K in? Over 10 years, that's 50K. So, Tim, 50K for 347, not a bad deal. Cash on cash return. I'd even argue that for some people, up to 10K wouldn't be a bad deal either. All right, as you go for that sort of stuff. And what Luke's saying there as well is he's got some other assets, and this is where business owners or those who have trading incomes, buying and selling incomes, business incomes, other side hustles, if you can match up those incomes, if you can match an income with a growth asset, it's very tax efficient for that income. You can manage it if you structure it properly using the right structures. That income you pay no tax on, and you end up with a capital gain of $347,000. So, I didn't get a chance to flesh that out today, team, because of some internet issues. Yeah, it's true, Tim. You've got to be careful. That's why you've got to choose, a good property in proven growth areas. And that's why, Sam and the team do a lot of research when it comes to long-term proven areas that are infill, that are closer to the city, where populations are creating pressure. And if you haven't already, folks, make sure you get hold of Sam's Forex growth strategy. There's about 15 pieces of research and understanding of what would drive that growth very consistently when it comes down to design, behavior, economics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you guys hear Sam talk about it all the time. But that's the go. Most of us will get wealthier, far wealthier if we choose a growth property. What is a growth property, right? Lots of gurus tell you they know what growth is. Unfortunately, many of them don't. But there you go. Anyway, interesting conversation. Interesting mathematics for us today. Didn't get a chance to flesh it out, unfortunately, but maybe I'll circle around for a version 2 of this tomorrow and spend a bit more time on chatting to you guys about these types of things. Because as interest rates go up a little bit, maybe our choices are a little bit more restricted when it comes to the volume, the number of properties we can buy. And buying one good one for the moment is certainly essential for us as property investors. Anyway, there you go, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat done this morning. I did turn off the VPN, and it worked. It helped. There you go. It stopped it being an issue with the internet. Anyway, folks, you work these things out as you roll. You guys be good, be well. Join me tomorrow for another Wealth Coffee Chat. Thanks for joining me for today. Over and out, done and dusted. Yeah, absolutely. Bit of a win-win there for sure too, Luke. For sure. Yeah, we want to be 5% or more in our growth. There we go. For those sorts of things. All right, team. Be good, be well. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.